Howdy. Welcome to the 40th anniversary of this facility. Aquaculture's been doing research out here for 40 years, and that's quite an accomplishment. And to the renovation of the ponds this year, and we're really excited and proud to have that done. And there's lots of people to thank, and I'm going to let Dr. Gatlin do that in a second. But I'm just curious. I'd like to see some hands of people that have worked or been students or been out here one way or the other. Fantastic. Fantastic. So, yeah, I showed up out here in '82, so I wasn't here at the beginning of it, but spent many years and many nights and many cold days out here in the ponds and in the tanks in here, and I have fun memories of all that time, as I'm sure most of y'all do. But anyway, I want to welcome you. We've got lots of guests. Everybody's meeting each other and hopefully meeting a lot of old friends and old people that you recognize. And I'm not going to go down through the list other than I'll let Dr. Gatlin thank everybody that he needs to thank. And then I've got a real treat because I think Bob Stickney's going to say a few words. All right.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, I'd like to, first of all, thank you for attending this celebration. One part of the celebration has to do with the renovation of our pond complex, which is took a while for it to be completed, but we did finish it at the end of 2012, and we had the support of a number of different entities in making that happen. Certainly from the standpoint of the financial contributions, Texas AgriLife Research was instrumental, as well as the College of Ag and Life Sciences, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries Sciences, and then our partnership with Texas Parks and Wildlife was also instrumental in generating the funds that we needed for this renovation. Also, as noted on the poster there, J&S Well Service, Monty Richardson's here representing J&S Well Service. They drilled a new water well for our facilities to make it very functional, quite extensive work in that area, and we appreciate their support. And then Paul Amos, representing Firestone Specialty Products, is here, and Paul was very much instrumental in helping us with some of the technical aspects of installing the Firestone liner material into the ponds. And so, Paul, we really appreciate your support there. So that's one aspect of our celebration today, and I hope everybody had plenty to eat. Brian's telling me that there's still some grilled fish coming off if you prefer to have that for your dessert, or there's some cake and some other brownie bites that you might partake of. But anyway, the other celebration is the fact that indeed we've had this facility out here for 40 years. And before anybody jumps to conclusions, no, I have not been out here all 40 years. Nearly. As a matter of fact, I distinctly remember when I was an undergraduate student in 1979, I started working out here as a student worker. And then later that year, I conducted a senior honors thesis under the direction of my mentor, Dr. Bob Stickney, which really was instrumental in me pursuing my career in aquaculture, and specifically aquaculture nutrition. I kept telling him I wanted to work on fish diseases. He said, "We don't deal with diseases out here. We don't want them out here. Please do something else." So it ended up being fish nutrition. And again, I'm very appreciative for the guidance that he provided there, and the opportunity to come back here. Actually, I came back in 1987, so I've been here 26 years. And the facility has undergone a few renovations, a few additions, and again, very pleased to have the opportunity to represent the program. In this other poster, we just provided a little bit of backboards for you to look at if you're interested in terms of the research that we do here. Indeed, it is a facility where we conduct a lot of our research, but in addition to that, we do a lot of teaching. A lot of the laboratory components of our courses are supported out here, where we do demonstrations and actual laboratory exercises. And we also have extension and service components that are operated out here on a regular basis. So the facility does certainly embody the land-grant mission in terms of teaching, research, and extension or outreach. So I want to turn the mic over to Dr. Stickney right now, because he has the greatest institutional memory of this facility. As I mentioned, he was my mentor as a professor in wildlife and fisheries sciences. He went away to the University of Washington for some period of time, came back to Texas A&M as the director of the Texas Sea Grant College program, and just recently retired. But Dr. Stickney, again, has a lot of institutional memory about this facility, and I want him to just say a few words, if you might.
Thank you, Delbert. I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about the way this place was when I got here in April of 1975. But one of the greatest achievements we had out here is Delbert. I've never been more proud of anybody that I've worked with and been involved with. Bill Neal and I were talking a few minutes ago about this facility and how tremendous looking it is and productive and that sort of thing. When I got here, the reservoir was not finished. So one of the first things that, those of you who remember W.A. Isbell, who was one of the greatest people I ever worked with, a real curmudgeon, taught me how to drive a tractor, taught me how to get it stuck in a pond. Had to go down to the farm services to get pulled out a few times. A lot of kids, students came in here. They'd never driven tractors before. They'd never been around one. A lot of them came from, like I did, from big cities. They didn't come from the farm. Anyway, one of the first things we did was we put the kennel in on the reservoir. And we didn't use heavy enough plywood, so we had sides of it that bowed out and that sort of thing. We managed to get it where it actually worked, but the screens wouldn't go in right because the slots were all pushed out. It was a mess. Ponds leaked. We didn't have any water for them, except from farm services. We had a whole bunch of irrigation pipe, 10-inch irrigation pipe, and Bob Brick came shortly after I did, was working on macro braking. And we spent most of our time every morning moving irrigation pipe because the pond that we filled a couple of days before was empty again. We put bentonite in the ponds, we tried everything, and we never could find the money to line them. And so this is just amazing. And one of the big things we did was we built that building over there. This one was here, and that's where we had our catfish hatchery in what's the garage end of it, the shop now. And we put up that one, and when I left in '84, when I came back in '96, that thing was completely rusted out. It started doing a little saltwater research in there, and the building wasn't really ready for it. So they got that redone. That was one of the first real big renovations. And, I've enjoyed coming out here every couple of years and seeing how it's evolved. A lot of really outstanding students came through this place, and many of them have gone on to really good careers. Some in Texas. A few fish farmers in Texas. Some of the best fish farmers in Texas, both on the coast and as far as north of Dallas, that came through this place. A lot of people went into academia, government. I'm very, very proud of what Delbert's done. Ponds don't leak anymore. And one of the big deals we got was when Farm Services put in a well. Part of the problem with the irrigation pipe was we had plenty of water, but it was cold, and it never warmed up because the ponds would leak so bad that you had to keep pouring cold water into them all the time. So the fish were not growing at all. It was terrible. That water temperature was probably down around 60, 65 degrees. So they put in a well out there, and they had this hot water. So we talked them into letting us tap into it so we could run warm water into this perfect 80-degree water to run into this building. So WA and I went down there and put in the last fitting to hook up that pipeline that came over here. And about that time, the Dean of Agriculture and some other bigwigs from campus came over, and they said, we just spent $75,000 on this well, and we want to drink of that water. And WA said, You know, that ooze not probably set yet. Now, we don't care. We want to drink that water. Turn that pump on. Well, it blew the fitting off, and they're not very, they weren't very happy with us about that. And one other story I'll tell you. We had painters come out from town. We ran our own trash. We paid for our own telephones out here. We had very low support, but the university, in its wisdom, decided that they would paint the building, this building. And they sent 3 painters out here. 2 old guys, relatively old guys, and a young guy. Well, the old guys watched us sort fish and do all this kind of stuff, and the young guy did painting. Well, they were out here 2 weeks, and they hadn't done half of it done yet because he was slow, and they were supposed to come through and sandblast the wet end of the building, but the boss finally told them, you need to get back to town, finish that up, so they just painted over the rest. But they'd leave campus and they'd get out here about 8:30 in the morning, and about 10 they'd head to Snook and they'd go get their coffee break and their kolaches. They get back about 11 and 11:30, then they headed back to town to have lunch. Back here about 1:30 and repeat the process. So that was one of the reasons how much paint got stacked. Anyway, about 3-4 months after they finished, might have been even longer, some of you will remember the name O.D. Butler. He was the head of animal sciences, and he ended up being a vice chancellor or something, a deputy vice chancellor. He walked into the lab, and he said, I'm O.D. Butler. And I said, yes, sir. I certainly recognize you. I know who you are. He said, well, I do this sometimes. And I said, well, what might that be? He said, well, I come out and check on things. He said, I heard you had this place painted. Yes, we did. He said, well, I came out to inspect. And I said, okay. So took him on a tour and took him out here and showed him everything we were doing. And he got in his vehicle and left. And I got a note from him a few days later. He said, that's the first time I've walked into a lab unannounced and everybody was working. And I thought, that's the first time anybody's come in here on a Friday afternoon when we weren't just sitting around chewing fat. Anyway, so it was fun times out here. I spent most of my time out here with my students. Enjoyed the heck out of it. It's one of the best days I ever had. So I think I'll just quit with that and appreciate being invited and having a chance to share some thoughts with you.
Thank you very much.